concentrate or focus. Okay. The nature has given us so many senses. If you just try and open them and take the inputs from all the senses, you'll automatically come to the present moment. Right? Just see how your skin, जैसे अभी ठंडा लग रहा है, and breathe the air here. Notice that. You're already breathing. Just notice that. Like this side of my face is warmer. And notice such things, and you'll come to the present, and you'll enjoy the place more. You'll take greater, more memories back. So welcome you all. This is the whole land is historical, but as per the human history and the known history, there are so many things about this land which start from even ancient times to the modern times. It has been a land of prominence, this whole area. What we know is naturally you have Delhi has a tail of Aravallis, which are supposed to be one of the old fold mountains on the whole earth. Himalayas are the youngest. This is one of the oldest. And hence you had so many natural features that support life. So you've seen various tribes settling here, and maybe several human inventions also which we don't have records of. What we know of as solid written history is from the medieval times, and before that we have stories from the folklore and the traditions, oral traditions. So the oldest thing that usually people are aware of is the times of Mahabharata, when there was a baby girl who was born before Krishna, because Kans, the bad king, wanted to kill Krishna, so a girl appeared instead of Krishna. So, and that girl flew away with his hands. So it is said that she finally established herself as the goddess in a temple right between the Maya temple. So it is a very historic place, like from ancient times. Still it is worshipped, and it has had so much significance that even the Mughal rulers, they took interest in that and they got it repaired and all, because the local faith was so strong. So that is one of the oldest things we know about this land. After that, we have several, because this was also the land of intellect and wisdom, there have been mentions of several astronomical observatories, shrines of spiritual nature, like hospices, and where you come for healing. Right from the ancient Indo-Indian times to the modern Sufi times, you have there is something about this land which has kept it always inhabited. People have always stayed here, and till before Alauddin Khalji, who is famous because of Padmavati movie today. Before that, this place has seen several capitals also. So this has always flourished. You have so many water bodies here of spiritual significance and for utility purposes. Stepwells are here. So yes, life has flourished a lot in this part of the land. And then if we move further in the history, we come to the medieval times. You must have heard of the Surajkund Mela, 14th century के आसपास होता है. Yeah. So that was the Tomars were ruling this part of the northern India, and they had their capital. I don't know where the capital was, but there was a major center in Haryana area where they built several Surajkund and all. In around 1090 or towards the end of that century, Anandpal Tomar was a ruler who shifted the base here. So the first capital, not exactly the first, but as per the written records, as where the medieval northern India starts, was here, called Lalkot. The walls of that fort was so broad and wide that you could have horses running over those. And the walls still exist in the area called Sanjay Van. They're fused with the nature now. It looks like a hill, but it's a fort wall. So we would love to take you to that place in this season especially. So that was Lal Kot. Prithviraj Chauhan inherited it from his Nana, maternal uncle, that is one of the Tomar kings. And he continued the rule from here and extended the fort further with another fortress called Kila Rai Pithoda. So it has a big portion of that fort also. The walls are parallel to Lal Kot. And the Malvi Nagar metro station, just besides that is the Kila Rai Pithoda ruins remains that we still have. After that, like the Sultanate period starts. Muhammad Ghori invades here and is able to finally take the control of the land. But he doesn't shift the capital because he finds the place very suitable. Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, Sultan Razia, and so many monarchs have ruled from this land itself. Till the point of Alauddin Khalji, who shift the capital not very far away to Siri Fort, what we know as Siri Fort. And then on, there was a sequence where the capitals were shifted closer to the river Yamuna. So if you see, after that Jahanpana and Tughlaqabad was there, and there were so many more capitals. Firoz Shah Kotla, it moved closer to Yamuna. But during that period as well, because of the natural features that this place had and also the spiritual significance of all the faiths, this was a flourishing center, and rich people would have pleasure pavilions here, farmhouses like this to still do, and people used to visit the temples and the Sufi shrine here, Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Khan. And it is also said, Asif has told me several times, that in summers people from that part of the region shift here because this was still at a height. It had a lot of greenery and water bodies, of course. So Abo Hawa jo the environment here, ambience here, even in later parts of the Mughal rule, when they were not as strong ruler, but still this practice continued, that people used to move here and have, there is a palace here called Zafar Mahal. So that is believed to be a pleasure palace of the Mughal king who used to move here to have a good time in summer. And after that era, the British rule started. One big thing is I was just talking about the Mehrauli archaeological park. So that was the doing of one of Sir Thomas Metcalfe, who again liked the place, so he purchased the whole land and wanted to equal himself with the Mughal ruler. So he built his own palace here, which is called Dilkash. So again, we have to go there to experience that. It's just right across the road. So that is and post the rebellion, when the Queen started ruling here, this became a major capital of the British, and they wanted to beautify it further. That's when New Delhi comes to picture, the word New Delhi. And the Lutyens Delhi that you see, it was designed, and the President's House, the Parliament House, and all those were designed during that time, because now it was no longer a India company who was making money here. Now it is their own land, so they wanted to make it. But during that time, it was identified that designed that they across several ridges. So see that Delhi, this area, North Delhi has a big ridge. South Delhi has these ridges around the Tughlaqabad area, and this is one such part where conscious plantation was done. It's a different story that at that time they decided to plant kikars, Ilaiti kikar, what we call it, but now it is found that it takes away the nutrition from all other species. So now people are trying to, the government is trying to replace those trees, but that time it was a good effort that they planted a lot of trees here. It grows fast. So if you go to Sanjay Van, 90% of the trees are here, and that is the time when it was a scientifically, technically planned thing that you need to have the lungs of the cities at various places. So that's why you still have greenery here. And many people notice when they're coming from Mulchan or Noida or that part of the city, and you enter that Jahanpana road, which is like around Greater Kailash, or the BRT that we call it, the temperature dips suddenly. Right after that traffic light, the temperature dips, because that is where the Jahanpana ridge starts. So that's a brief history. Throughout these things, like we'll talk about particularly Jain history at a level up there, but I would just mention that Jains have been, because of their thought process, they've never been into ruling. But yes, everything gets corrupted, so you might see other kinds of Jains as well. But they have been people of prominence right from the beginning, be it intellect or wisdom or spirituality, and even till today, it's a coincidence. You might see that in finance, you see a lot of people who are into Jain, especially I've seen in my company. So they are good at it. It is also said that because you'll see a lot of Jain people into trading and business. Because at that time when the thought process was growing, like this was the least hinsak business. Hinsa means like cruelty. So in all other businesses you have to do, like there was greater amount of cruelty in any form that you have to do. So that's why it is believed that they were into trading mostly, and that made them really good in finances. So a lot of kings had like Jain people taking care of finances as well as spirituality and wisdom. And during the times of Tomars, they were the primary from whom the kings sought wisdom. Jain community was there, and I'll tell you more about the Jain history over there. And right from that time to the last Mughal, still if you go to the Old Delhi area, the Old Delhi, Shahjahanabad, the capital of Mughal, starts with a Jain temple. Outside you have a Digambar Jain temple there. And till the lanes of Jama Masjid, we enjoy food walks there. That is because of the fact that so many Jains from Rajasthan and other places were a part of the Mughal, the finances, and a lot of admins were taken care of by Jains. And hence you have a variety of vegetarian dishes flourishing till the time of Mughals. You see a big difference there. After Jama Masjid, the authentic non-veg food starts. Outside you have so many like innovative vegetarian dishes. So that's one of the reasons that the community has been a major force within the Mughal times also. Now let's go upstairs. We'll be quieter up there. We'll stop at a point here and do the talking. When we go to the main shrine, there are people who pray there and who meditate there. So we'll try to be quiet. And it's a big idol. We would love to have a group photo there. So let's quietly gather for the group photo when I tell you. And but yeah, when we reach upstairs, the shrine, we'll be quiet, but we'll be observant and absorbent. So let's walk around the place and look at all the greenery around, and also the idol, of course, how beautifully it has been carved. Let's go. Come nearer. Just observe this. You can stand on the side there. You could see the same at temples, churches, ashrams. There is a different feeling. At least whatever sect or religion you are following, if you're doing that properly, if you have a direct connection with the source of it, not by the book or by the priest, there is a certain kind of honesty that comes in, and which is very consciously used in Buddhism. It is very evident that the people who are carving these out, who are painting things, who are doing anything for that temple, even the gardening and all, that itself is a meditation for them. There are Buddhist paintings which take like 25 years to make, and that the whole process is a graduation process for that monk, or that saint. And in the older times it was considered so valuable that only kings and all would buy those. So that's why even in Michelangelo and all these famous painters were asked, were sponsored, were given funds, and they were people of such belief and faith that they got like drowned into their work, and hence their work, like, it is actually very different. It is meditative. So similarly, you'll notice that this whole place also has sculptures and all, but it is very different than how it would feel in a art gallery or art museum. This, to me, it feels different. This has a different sanctity of its own. So yeah, any comments on that?
Yeah, like
what is the main message? Harmony. Ahimsa, we all know. That is non-cruelty. There is a very modern message also that is needed in this time. Not in this particular, but I'm just trying to arrive at the foundations of Jainism through this picture. So here we'll talk a little about Jainism and get oriented into what that faith is. Unlike Buddhism, which started with God, Jainism is believed to be an ancient tradition which started when the existence started. And we are here at Ahimsa Sthal, which has the idol of Lord Mahavira, who is believed to be the last torchbearer or Tirthankar of this faith. And last as in, it's not that after this it will end, but the Jain thought, and a lot of Eastern faiths have this thought, that life is in a cycle. It goes on, and they have their scriptures, even Hindu scriptures have this, that Kal Chakra bolte hain. So they even have a maths to it, that okay, in this era so many Tirthankars will exist on earth, and so as per that count, 24 was their last count, after which after a few thousand of years the cycle starts again. So of the current cycle, current half cycle is 24th Tirthankar. So what is the Tirthankar and what is the cycle, and all, we'll just briefly talk about that. You must have heard the word sansar, which is used for world. The word actually means a wheel. Samsara is a wheel. The whole existence, the main belief is that this whole existence is a wheel which goes on continuously. To me, like being a science student, a lot of this is very like analogous to the energy conservation thing, that energy is never destroyed, always transformed from one form to another, and a lot of Heisenberg uncertainty principle. All that will come. So if you study, you feel that similarity. It's just a poetic way of saying the scientific principles. So samsara is the continuous wheel of life which goes on, and it goes from, if you've seen the sine wave, goes to a top and comes down and goes to the top. So from grief and sorrow to joy of highest level would be that the nirvana level, not just happiness. when you are just in a bliss. So the half cycle goes from grief to bliss and then reverses bliss to grief, and then again the cycle goes on. That is the Jain belief. I'm just telling this to you in very simple, relatable terms. And during this whole cycle, out of observation, it's not a prophecy. People who have observed the cycles and noted and all, they have found that usually 24 Tirthankars happen in this whole era, in a half cycle. And even they also tell about how many heroic figures come and go, kings, how many priests as in really who can move people to the next step. You need facilitators for that. So it's not a prophecy that 24 will come. 24 usually come in a half cycle. So this is that belief. I'm not carrying the count of every category that they have mentioned. Tirthankars, they have mentioned 24. So what is the Tirthankar? You must have heard the word Tir. Yamuna ke Tir jana hai. Tir is a bank, the side of the and the seventh often used for Khan's place in the literature diction. If you study, they put the word Kha if it is a place location. So the place located on the bank, in a way it is a metaphor for destination. It is the Eastern belief in a lot of faiths consider this to be an ocean where everyone has to cross and reach. That's why this is the practice of going for Tirth Yatra and English word for that. Pilgrimage. So where you reach somewhere, that is your final salvation. So a person who helps you do that as a catalyst, he doesn't influence you or doesn't add or subtract anything for you, but enables you to reach there, is known as Tirthankar. जो तीर्थ पे लेके जाता है is the Tirthankar. In Buddhism, they use the word Tirthankar also and Yan also, vehicle. That's why you have Mahayan and Yan. Okay, Mahayan is someone, he was a big vehicle who could take so many people to salvation. Depending on their own nature, there are people who are quiet, who achieve salvation and then fuse with the existence or their own salvation. So it's not a better or lesser form of salvation, but people who you can become zero by either contracting or expanding. Your own limited self. If you are the contracting kind, you are a yin, you are a small vehicle who took himself to salvation. If you are a big vehicle, in stories they often say for Buddha, they say that he attained salvation and then came a step back. I don't want to go to the place because I want all these people also to go. And it is mentioned in songs and poems that all the gods, they came and welcomed him to the heaven and earth. And he stood as a gatekeeper on the gate that I'll let everyone go. So that's a story, that's a Mahayana. So that's a Tirthankar also, who takes you to the back. So we discuss someone who takes you across this ocean with the Tirthankar. The word Jains comes from the word Pali Prakrit word Jinn. This Jinn is different from the other Jinn, that genie that we are used to. A lot of words of that era, Ashoka's name and that means that it was a derivative of Sanskrit itself. So you will see some distortions in Sanskrit words and they become Pali Prakrit. Okay. For example, such names were very common that time. Sariputta. Okay. Putta is Putra. So that was son of a sari or a driver. These were the references with no bad or good meaning to it. Just telling the language was a kind of derivative from Sanskrit. So the word jinn comes from the Sanskrit word jitendriya. Someone who has but what we understand, it's a very difficult thing to explain, that words used to have different meanings earlier because our contexts have changed. Today we think of jitendriya as someone who suppresses the senses. That time, from whatever scriptures or discourses that I went through, it is said that the word control didn't mean suppression. Control simply means that at will, if you can use it or stop it. Anything. So, someone who has come back to the present moment and has a sense of when I have to use anger, when I have to stop it, when I have to, and the sensory organs as well. It got distorted later on that people started blinding themselves. I won't see good things and pleasure is not for me and all. For those people, it's not pleasure, it's just an experience. Or it's not a bad experience, it's just an experience. So someone who has reached that state without any intoxication, because LSD also gives you that state, or any marijuana also gives you a flavor of that state. Right? Such people were known as jinn, and it is like equivalent. If you reach this jinn state, you are a Tirthankar also, because you will automatically have compassion for the fellow beings. If you reach that stage, next stage follows automatically. So hence the word Jain is derived from jinn. So we spoke about samsara and Tirthankar. Now let's go to the date, chronology of Tirthankar. He was around 600 years before Christ. And Buddha and Mahavira contemporaries. When he was in his 30s, Mahavira was in his 70s. So, and both were from royal families. That's why you see a lot of similarities and people confuse. Even on TripAdvisor, to read reviews of this place, they say that a big idol of Buddha is here, and people get confused because their teachings are also similar. Because their backgrounds are similar. One was a king and Buddha was a prince. He had everything at a young age itself. So, 24th was Mahavira, 23rd was a person named Parshvanath. And these two, the references of these two have been found in scriptures and the written history. A lot of Buddhist history is more easily available to us, and those scriptures have references to these two Tirthankars. That in this place, whatever his name that time was, Mahavira was one of the names. So there are references to a person who is from the Jain sequence of Tirthankars who stays nearby, or they both were from the Vihara region, Vaishali, and that what we call as Vihara right now. So a lot of Jain information comes from the Buddhist text. But before these, there were 22 more Tirthankars. There is no written evidence that exists, but their mentions are there. Or even if you go to the old caves and all, their statues are there, which hints that there was some kind of existence. But in the modern history, the way we document it is that only the last two are considered to be historic. Tirthankars who have been before that are not considered mythological. It's like Rama and Krishna and Shiva. So in the modern history, they are mythological.
Aditya, if you go to a Derasa, Jain temple, you will always find three of them. So there's Mahavir, there's Parshvanath, and there is one more statue which is there. I forget the name.
Neminath, I guess.
Nemi.
There are three who have prominent mentions in history. The third one I will tell right now. Last two, we know Parshvanath, Mahavira. The other figures that about whom we have prominent mentions. First is the first Tirthankar who started with whom it was founded, with Rishabhnath. And his mentions is from the times of Puranic cultures, the Puranas, which is like much before when all the civilizations and royalties started and all. The third last, like you'll get a reference of the date with this sense that the third last Tirthankar was Krishna's cousin. So you had like 21 more before that. You can imagine like at least you are into 80, and it's not that every 100 years. So the belief says that the first one was 85,000 years ago, but we don't have any dating for that. So Rishabhnath is from the times of Puranas, when you didn't have all these the current gods that we are aware of. It was only the 23rd who was like 22nd, who was Krishna's cousin, and hence a lot of Krishna related festivals and cultures, traditions are also followed in the Jain sect. They believe the Krishna followers to be spiritual cousins. So that's an unsaid thing. So you'll see a lot of similarities in the Hindu traditions and Jain traditions also. Parshvanath, which was the second last, was around 872, carrying dates here. So, and Mahavira was around 600 BC. Again, like as I mentioned, these are historical figures about whom you have references. If you want to, like, if you read the Buddhist text, you get references to the contemporary other spiritual leaders as well. They were more like not just at that time. There was a very specific reason why you had so many spiritual leaders across the globe. So yeah, this is the last concept which I'll tell you here, and we'll go on. The samsara thing, that this is a wheel which goes on and on. Another observation associated to that is that after every 2500 years, it takes like 2500 years to the intellect of, which is called the collective consciousness of the whole society, shift from one thing to another. Like there's a big change that happens. Within our lifespan also you will see that certain things, very small examples like have you gone crazy is a cool statement right now. Like 50 years back, crazy used to be like used for a mentally ill person and people used to get offended. I studied abuses from Sanskrit. The biggest abuse was Diktvam Murkham. You are fool. We are laughing at it. That time wars used to happen like it. And that time it was not beautiful, it was like really enraging. So this kind of shift, it has been observed that every 2500 years a big major shift happens, and it also has like milestones. After 2500 years a big turn of events happen in which like you start, your whole thought process changes, and this is an observation, again not a prophecy. And within this 2500 years, around after every 500 years the facilitator appears. Not out of magic, because of like we are hearing a lot about women empowerment, for example, these days. Because past few 100 years, 1000 years, suppression has happened. So now that is coming out. These kind of things, like every 500 years, a facilitator comes, facilitates a change. You might not notice in 500 years, but like in 1500 you will see that a big change has happened. So it is very coincidental with this that Buddha and Mahavira were around 600, 500 years, then you have Christ. Okay? And before Buddha again, if you go to 500 years back, across the globe you will see prominent people coming up, and even heroic figures and villains coming up. So the Jain text has mentions of villains also, that how many anti-heroes will happen in this time cycle. So it is believed that at that time it was a completion of 2500 years when of one particular kind of thought, and unconsciously, not mindfully, things started taking a new turn. So this has been observed in the form of even simple language that when the Hindu thought started like 25 years ago or so, at that time the belief was that a person who is spiritually wise, the ruler of the land, like should take wisdom from that person and should not like so that time we had the practice of, and that person has to be a revered person, like who is a Jain, who is a Sikh, who knows. If you still go to the Tibetan practices, they make such a person the ruler, and it is not by birth that you inherit that. There are like guidelines which tell that these qualities should be there in that person, and it is like unanimously decided. So when the Hindu thought started, at that time it was good for the times. So it was believed that you will see that a lot of words like Swami are used, that the person who is a revered saintly person or who is a Jain is the master. Even language tells you that Swami was, but then slowly distortions happened like over thousands of years, and things like caste system and inheriting this Swamihood start. Like if I am a son of a Swami, I also become a Swami, or I also become a Brahmin. And that's where corruption starts, and when politics mixes with religion, a lot of chaos happens. And there were smaller rebellions, people who would become wanton saints, and like Asif also mentions a lot of times that even there is a tiff between a Sufi saint and a Maulana, who is the authority appointed religious leader. So a Sufi saint would be a more like revered by the person, by the king, but politics tell you that Maulana is the main. And similarly in Christianity also you will have saints who are loved by people but are not appointed. So at the time of Buddha and Mahavira, it's not that they consciously did that, but the distortion was so much that they had to bring in a new thought. So their monks were called bhikshus, contrasting a Swami. Bhikshu is a beggar who lives by alms. So if you come to my monastery, the Jain thought and Buddhist thought is that you leave everything, you don't own anything, and you live by nature, what nature brings to you. And the name given, it was a very, in several heritage walks we talk about iconoclasm, people coming and destroying the existing temples and all and raising their own structures. That is a psychological way of telling that I am here. At the time of Buddha, they didn't demolish anything, they just changed the thought that okay, you're coming to this monastery not to become Swami and not to expect respect from the people. You will live by ants and you are a bhikshu. So more such changes happened at that time, in which of course like later this also got corrupted and all, because it's a cycle, and the Jain scriptures accept this thing that yeah, this is how nature is. One good thing will start, like Buddha himself said that don't make a community after me, don't make my idols. So they made the idols, but that is the reason, which has good and bad effects both. So this leads us to one very important Jain foundation which is needed at this time, is that we know Ahimsa, and there was one like truthfulness. Just give you the, I'm not finding the right English word, yeah. Non-attachment is there in all the sects. Ahimsa is almost there now, the sect, because Hinsa was more that time. The rulers were suppressing. You will see, just watch serials like Chanakya and all, you will see slaves being sold and beaten up, and just because you are upper caste, you buy someone else. So those things were there. So the leader had to come up with Ahimsa. This is my foundation. And the third one is Anekantvad. Anekantvad is something very scientific for me. In English it means non-absolutism. If I give you a chocolate and you eat it, which means that I have transferred my truth. But the moment I tell you to explain that in words, in language, you cannot do that. It cannot convey your total experience to me. You start with saying that it's very sweet, but I'll say that it was round also. The message in Anekantvad is that because the language of the nature of expression or language is limited, it can never match up to such a level that it can give you the exact truth. The truth or God or whatever you say is multi-dimensional and has multiple aspects. So the moment you say one thing about it, you're missing the 99 other things. And you can't change it. It's not that if you study a lot, you'll be able to do that. Because of this nature, like gravity is a nature, right? We don't calculate it every day. We know कि ऐसे ही है, छूटेगा तो नीचे गिरेगा. So we take precautions for that. Because the nature of expression is like this, the followers of Jain communities were told that to follow non-absolutism, Anekantvad. What you follow is good, but be open to the other belief as well. Because you never know that maybe the truth is right. So
Anekant is what? Anekantvad. How do you break it up?
Anekantvad मतलब एक होता है कि मेरा ही belief सब true है.
About the word. एकांत है, अनेक है,
एकांतवाद है या
अनेक
अनेक
अनेक अंत.
एब्सोल्यूटिज्म ना
वही तो एकांत.
It's like non-absolute.
Like dissolution of
Right. So for me it is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Because like that principle also says that if you click a photo of that photon or the particle, by the time you take the photo, it has gone somewhere else.
somewhere else.
Okay. So your truth is not true. Like you got a photo, fine, but it's not what existence is right now. So yeah, it was the foundations of Jainism had this also, that be open to all other faiths also. That you can follow what your nature says, but it doesn't mean that my God is the only God or my rules are the best. So you have to be open to the other. And this is also called as spiritual ahimsa. Ahimsa, not like I'm not hitting him, but I don't respect his belief. So that is that level of ahimsa. And I'll make efforts, or even I might think, I might not be powerful, but I might think that, oh, this would be nice if this belief like gets destroyed. I can have that will, right? So this teaching works at the level of will, not at the level of will. You can't have that will also. So that is something that I like. And the comparison that I told about Swami and Bhikshu, there was another beautiful word that I liked, which was termed in that era, was Shraman. So you have Brahman, you used to have Brahman. Shraman. They made this new modern word, Shraman. That Shram is hard work. So you cannot become revered by birth. That if you're a pandit, you're a son or something. You have to work for it. So their designation was that, like in these monasteries, that if you have worked for it and the master thinks that you are someone who can like guide people, that designation was not Brahman, it was service. And that was a psychological way of telling that we don't accept this spirituality or like which is coming by birth. You can't claim that like I inherited this thing from someone. This thing was very strongly like followed in Tibet, where like at times the king Gaddi is khali. You look for, you wait for such a person who has that stature and then only becomes the ruler. And it is believed that such a person automatically is compassionate, is wise enough to take decisions. So yeah, and one more word was Shravak. You will see a lot in Jain texts. Shravak. The followers in Jain community, the ideal follower would be a Shravak. Shravak means somebody who listens. Okay. And in this listening, the whole emphasis is just on listening. Okay, not that you listen to me like we tell to children. Listen to me, do what I say. It's not meant here. Just the act of listening can give you salvation also. Because listening means pure listening, just listening, not even following.
Listen with all your senses, basically.
Yeah, when we listen, we give it a meaning. Okay. And it happens like if a man would listen to something, he will understand a different thing. If a woman would listen, she will decipher a different thing. If a person of teenager looks at something, he will mean something else. We have a conditioning in our own minds. We give that flavor to it. It is as if looking through glasses, colored glasses. So that's why these masters used to say that just listen and you'll achieve it. Now, to just listen, you have to work for years to come to the present moment. You have to earn it by meditation or by several other things. Like some people were even given like labor work or physical. It's not that just you sit in a room and you meditate and you get that. They depending on your own intellect, like doctors would know it, that the same medicine doesn't work for everyone. So depending on your body type, soul type, mind type, you have a medicine. And it's considered to be a very difficult thing to just listen. The way it is. If you are a person who can just listen, you are already a Buddha. So that is the thought behind that. So the name that they gave to the followers was Shravak. All they are learning throughout all these years is to listen. Which like, it doesn't mean that if you're sitting there and listening, you are an actual Shravak. You can have your own mathematics going on in your head. So and the masters used to, it has been expressed in a mystical way. That's why we think that like it's a mystery or it's too poetic or something. The master can sense that this person is now a Shravak, is now not giving his own or her own meaning to what I'm saying. And that's why you have references of that even by listening to the sound of wind, somebody became... in Zen stories, Chinese Zen, Japanese Zen, you have a lot of these instances that when one master was about to pass away, everyone was thinking that the head monk of that place will replace him. But the master finally says that there is a guy in the kitchen who peels potatoes.
Kung Fu Panda की story. ये तो Kung Fu Panda की story है.
Yeah. So it is like inspired from those stories itself. Kung Fu Panda is a very beautifully made film.
Absolutely.
Which has, like, we watch it for the Kung Fu or the entertainment. If somebody from the Zen tradition watches it, they would like admire it that what we believe in has been shown in such a light way. So I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, for that person, 10 years back, the master told that I just told him to peel potatoes. That's your duty. No meditation, no nothing. And today that person is ready for replacing me. He must have been irritated on the first day. I kept peel potatoes, and everyone is doing like so many sound meditation and so many meditation. But doing that again, that person actually became so neutral. That's why at first, like with a glass, I use that such a person is transparent, doesn't give a color of his own, but still has an existence. Glass statue has an existence, but it doesn't also. So those were the foundations of the Jain thought. Buddhist thoughts are also pretty similar, but one main difference is that thought process was made more prominent by Buddha. So that religion starts from there. It's not actually a religion, it's a way of living. Jainism also and Buddhism also. It's somewhat similar to modern times Sufism. The only difference is the vocabulary. You come from Islamic background, you use those words and those traditions, those practices. But even if you go to the Nizamuddin, not the Dargah, behind the this Humayun tomb, you have his Khanka, which is believed to be an ashram. You have rooms where people meditate, used to meditate, closed rooms and all, which is very similar to a room. There is a story for Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma was the same, like Buddhist monk who went from South India to China and that land and spread Buddhism there. There is a story that he used to face a wall for years and meditate. Okay, so there was one form of meditation that was prescribed in that. Sufis also have a similar thing where you have a small room, you go and face the wall and meditate. So a lot of these practices, because we all are made of the same elements, you will see the same practices in a lot of these faiths. So yeah, now we'll go upstairs. Watchtower that he established. So it is believed that this is the same watchtower that is mentioned here. But if you go there, the architecture is like very old, even like just big boulders cut into this. Whereas in British times, they used to make it like in a more proper way. But it can also be so that they reused it. The structure must have been there. Yeah, they reused it. You have similar structures, and there is a one post minar in Delhi Zoo as well, which is a milestone on the Grand Front. Yeah, that's also stone structure. So it could be possible that it existed and they reused it. But there is a mention of Metcalfe Battery House and a watchtower in this area, and which was right outside Dilkash. Dilkash was his residence. That is across the road, which is now called the archaeological park. Here, this was in the early 17th century. That is maybe during the time of Jahangir, Akbar's son. This was built. There's not much known about who this person was, but since it has been made at a prominent spot, and at a height. It signifies that it tells or it hints that he must have been an important person of that time. And you see some graves also around. Usually royal graves are found around pious men like Sufi saints. So that also hints that he might have been a person of that kind of importance. This place becomes significant when Metcalfe, as in must have been significant earlier also, but in the written history, we know that Metcalfe, outside his farmhouse, that is Hillcrest, made a battery house and store for ammunition. So this he used as ammunition. And there have been mentions of shots, anecdotes about British soldiers running up to the cliff and racing, like who reaches first. Yeah. So, and this would have had more like cliffs and all around. Not the roads have been cut recently, like past 50 years. It would have been more like, and this is a similar hillock as the Mahavira Sthal. The Mahavira statue came up in 1980s. Coincidentally, that was the 25th 100 year of Mahavira's Nirvana, and the various Jain sects in that year, in 1975 onwards, started making efforts to like come to a common ground. Within Jainism also you have various faiths, and I don't know the link between this statue coming up and that 1975 thing. It must be something like the statue came up in 80s. It's made of granite in Karla, Karnataka, which itself also has big Mahavira statues. And then later on the surrounding area was beautified to make it a hospice kind of environment. Let's go up there and enjoy the view. And it is related to something that happened in 1000 or 900 AD or something, but it is related to the modern day Delhi. And so those two things are coincidentally related to the Jain community. When the Tomars were ruling here, the Jains had a prominent role in the soil. At that time, one of the scriptures, I don't know what it was, a travelogue or what it was basically, but one document for the first time mentions the name of this place as Dilli.
As?
Dilli. There is a story related to the Qutub Minar. There is an iron pillar there. It became, that's a separate story, but that pillar was somehow loosened and it was not very tight, and since then it is believed that because that keel was Dhili, the place got its name as Dhili. Okay, and also the dynasty fell. It was a curse on someone, which we'll discuss in a different walk. Curse on the king that if this now that you have loosened this keel, your empire will also be Dhili. So that's a folklore that is believed. So the oldest mention of this place as Dhili comes in a Jain scripture, not a scripture, could be a biography of someone or what, but that sentence in the language of that time says that the people of Delhi are very, they make like hardworking people and are very welcome the guests with a warm-heartedness. So it's a sentence like this, but the word Delhi is of interest of historians because that is the oldest mention of this name that we can find. So we get our name from that scripture, and a similar contemporary document of that time mentions that the Agarwal Jains, that's the first time the phrase is heard in the recorded history, are the main business clan of this city. who are the affluent people, the Agarwals. I think there is, because they mentioned the Jain Agarwals, so could be some Agarwals are Jain followers, but they are the main, like, and that's the reason we have so many Agarwal sweets, and it has like come down to this, that you have the main business community is of Agarwals. So these were just the two trivia that I came across while studying for this place.